You're the best, dude.
You are too.
That's
man.
awesome. That was great.
That was almost like a little bit relieving to kind of talk through that with you.
Yeah, yeah.
To be honest, okay, I can take a deep breath.
That was awesome.
Welcome to Sources Tell Jeff Passan. I'm Jeff Passan, and today we're taking a trip back to November 1st, 2025. On that night, the Los Angeles Dodgers and Toronto Blue Jays played one of the best baseball games I have ever seen. And that it happened to be Game 7 of a back and forth, all-time World Series made it even better. I have covered 22 World Series. In my first year writing about baseball, the Boston Red Sox broke an 86-year championship curse. A dozen years after that, the Chicago Cubs won the World Series for the first time in 108 years with an extra innings Game 7 victory. I have seen some history. I have never seen anything like Game 7 of the 2025 World Series, and already plenty has been written about it and spoken on it, and in the years to come, there will be plenty more. The awe-inspiring performances, the heart-palpitating games, all set against the backdrop of a burgeoning Dodgers dynasty running into a Blue Jays team representing not only the entirety of Canada, but serving as a proxy for other fan bases suffering from Dodger fatigue. This was the apotheosis of baseball, as good as it gets, filled with unforgettable moments. And to understand them better, to understand baseball better, we sat down with two of the central figures in the series to offer the sort of insight only they can provide, because they were the ones managing it. And there is nothing like managing Game 7 of the World Series. Here's my conversation with Dodgers manager Dave Roberts and Blue Jays manager John Schneider.
What is it like to be back here for the first time, you, Dave, since October? John, you, of course, are here every day,
right,
but together after what a lot of people believe is, if not the greatest World Series of all time, then certainly among them.
For me, we've been here for a couple of weeks, obviously, but I think everyone kind of, you don't want to circle a date, right. April 6th, it's the season, but we all knew when they were coming into town. Yeah. And I think that there's just a heightened sense of stuff. There's just, which takes you back to the World Series, whether it's media or this or whatever it is, but it's kind of like another game, but it seems like we just did this. So that's why it's a little bit unique.
I think for me, it's interesting because the last time we were on a flight here, there was a lot of anxiousness, nerves, and then taking the flight last night from DC, it was more like just excitement, and I didn't feel that pressure of having to win 2 games and beating this guy 2 games at their home place. So now it just feels like I could enjoy looking forward to playing these guys and what came with last year. And obviously the fans are going to be excited. Our players are excited. And, we seem to get the best out of one another.
I would say so, certainly, because
yeah.
that World Series last year, it was among the best that we've seen. Did you feel that in the moment, that what was going on was something that we were going to look back at and say, this is special?
You've done more of them than me. Go ahead.
Shoot, honestly, we were fighting for our lives. I thought they were the best team. I thought they were the best team in the postseason. Just the way they played baseball, and early on, people talking about David and Goliath, which was a joke. But and then obviously we got behind the 8 ball after that, after Game 3, and so I didn't appreciate that until getting to Game 7. I think for me, it's like once we got to Game 7, I felt that it was going to be one of the greatest series of all time. Either way, obviously we're both trying to win the game, but I felt that point, then you sort of try to lock back in and win a game.
Yeah, very similar for me, because when you're in it, you're just in it. And I remember texting Doc after the 18-inning game, kind of just You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but I think you kind of go through it, and there's so many instances, so many great performances, great plays, weird plays, historic plays that kind of happened. So when you're in it and you're living it and you're managing it, you're kind of just absorbing it. And it wasn't until a couple of weeks after where you sit back and go, "Wow, that was pretty epic."
I appreciate the fact that you guys have brought up multiple games in this series, because I feel like you can't tell the story of Game 7 without acknowledging what is happening in the first 6 that led up to it, that built up to it. And we'll start with Game 1. You did have, at least publicly, the David and Goliath narrative, John, and you guys come out and put up an 11 spot. What did that mean to your team, and what do you think it meant also to this city, getting to experience that for the first time in 3+ decades?
Yeah, I mean, we knew what we're going up against, right? It's elite starting pitching, elite lineup, and we wanted to come out and make a statement. And, you know, Varsh got us on the board, and all of a sudden, I think that kind of let everyone take a deep breath. It got the crowd involved, and then we kind of just kept rolling. And huge swing from Addy, you know, left on left, you know, pinch hit spot that's not easy to do. And I think it kind of really just carried some momentum from Game 7 against Seattle into this, you know, still at our home building, Game 7, and then to Game 1, it kind of got the ball rolling a little bit.
And I think for me, it was like we got our butts kicked, and then you're trying to, you know, salvage and appreciate you still got to win. They still got to win 4 games. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, you know, having Yamamoto going the next day felt like, okay, bullpen's in good shape. We'll have an off day the next day, and then how we're going to manage that. But then obviously he threw the heck out of it and even up the series. So then at that point in time, we're like, okay, they held serve, we held serve, whatever you want to look at it. It was like, okay, now we got, you know, 5-game series.
I love that this series had so much going on that we can just casually breeze past a guy throwing a complete game in the World Series, I mean, for the first time in a decade.
His second one in the postseason.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we get to Game 3. I don't know, when I look back at that game, what I take away from it, because almost like Game 7, there was just so much time after time. But Shohei Ohtani got on base 9 times that day.
I got to ask a question.
Yeah.
Was that, I know you don't want to put anybody on base.
Right, especially with your lineup.
With our lineup. But was there any thought to, he's pitching the next day and just kind of tax him? And
I was hoping he was going to steal everything.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit. It was just like, okay, I'm gonna get him out on the bases, and there's a little bit of that too.
Because, you know, truth be told, he likes being on base, obviously, but then he's very conservative, understandably so. And then you're looking at the game next day that he's pitching, and he was on IVs or whatever it was. He was exhausted, cramping up. And then you look back, the dude is on base 9 times. Yeah. And he was exhausted, which bled into the next day, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of, when we knew we were getting him Game 7 too, kind of on short rest. And I don't know how he does what he does, for one.
100%.
I mean, and I know that I've watched him, and you see him kind of go through his process of getting ready to pitch and then getting ready to hit. And then he's on base a lot, then he's running. He's unbelievable first to third stealing bases. So part of it was, yeah, man, I just don't want to see you swing right now. And okay, maybe we can get you tired for tomorrow.
It worked.
Yeah, it's the first time I've said it publicly.
Yeah. No, because that's, and the thing is, and we were talking about that, and it was like, this brilliant. Because, you know, even I asked him after that 18 game, I go, hey man, are you good to go tomorrow? And he's like, I'm pitching. But he did his IVs and left, but it just wasn't sharp, you know, and because he was exhausted.
IVs, is that a normal thing for him for that time
Will
of year?
Smith did it that night. We had a handful of guys, and then I asked Will Smith the same thing. I go, hey dude, 18 innings, you know, we got Wart Vet. Can you catch Game 4? And he's like, I'm catching Game 4, and I go, all right.
So Shohei starts that next game. John, I want to read something that you said that night. It's easy to write that it's Ohtani versus Guerrero. To us, it's Toronto versus Los Angeles. And you're right.
I meant the Dodgers.
Right. No.
The city or the country.
No. Your general sentiment is right. As manager, that is how you have to approach this. But for all the rest of us, Ohtani versus Guerrero,
Of course.
is the best.
Yeah.
And Vlad took him deep that
Yeah.
night too. When you guys see matchups like that, are you able to take yourselves out of your role for even like a slightest little moment and say, damn, this is awesome getting to see two men who can do this on a baseball field going into battle one-on-one against each other?
Yeah, I can. You know, there's certain times, whether it's, you know, Aaron Judge in this building or Shohei or, you know, Freddie, you know, a lot of guys. The fan comes out of you for probably, you know, 5 seconds or so, and then you get back into managing mode. I tried to do that for the whole World Series. First time being there, take at least a minute or two a day to be a fan and appreciate the stuff, and then get back to managing. But when you get those matchups and it's game on the line and it's going to be a bad outcome for somebody, you know, and I'm glad I'm not doing it, but I enjoy it. It's tense, but I enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, I clearly don't, because the next time I walked Guerrero, because I didn't want to see that matchup, so I got burned by Bichette. So I don't know. I guess, you know, when I was sitting at home watching Trout versus Ohtani for the WBC a few years ago, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Because I'm on my couch.
Yeah.
But
There's definitely something to that.
I don't need to see, I wasn't happy to see Guerrero Yamamoto either. So, but no, all kidding aside, I do take moments to go, man, this is cool. But when the game's online, it's like,
Yeah.
God, I would love 8 other guys outside of Guerrero or Judge at bat right now.
Definitely. I would have walked him too if I were you. I would
Right?
have walked him too, for sure.
After the game, do you do a self-accounting of what, like, did I make this decision right? What was the process behind this decision? How do you go about that?
Yeah, we kind of have a pregame process and a postgame kind of reflection process, and you know, good, bad, or indifferent. You know, we kind of do that in the regular season as well, and adjust as we go if needed. But yeah, man, I think that we are probably our harshest critics. Yeah. I think any manager would say that. But yeah, you run down and say, okay, as long as it was a convicted decision and it was something that you had talked about and it made sense in real time, you move on from it. And I think that, you know, for the most part, that was the outcome. But we kind of like to check our work every day.
Yeah, same. And I think that we do a great job of the pregame, the pitching, you know, the matchups that we might like. But then it's kind of like an overall, I don't know, for us, I would say for you, John, it's like we have an overall idea of what we want, the matchups we want, and then in real time, we got to make decisions, you know, and then live with whatever decisions. And so I love this. Danny Smith, special teams coach for the Steelers, told me when I went and saw Coach Tomlin and the Steelers, and he was a longtime special teams guy. He said, coaches make suggestions and managers make decisions. And I think and that's the truth, because it's one of those things, we get a lot of suggestions and ideas from, you know, front office and coaches, which is great, but ultimately we have to make the decisions because we have to be held accountable.
Right.
And so you sort of, it's fluid, you know, and there is no script, and you got to kind of watch it. But we do that postmortem. I know I do in bed, where I'm going, shoot, should I have let so-and-so hit, or should I have, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
In bed.
Oh, I mean, you don't even want to know what my nights were like after the World Series, talking about waking up and hoping for a different outcome, or asking my wife, who did I pinch run first with? You know, it's just like, you kind of
it's a blur. It's like right afterward, it's like it's clear, but then it's just like it's a blur. Like us going through this right now, it's crazy for me because I haven't done it.
Me neither. Honestly, I don't know if you have. It may be easier for you. I haven't watched the full game.
I haven't.
Back. Yeah. I mean, I know what happened, you know, obviously, but there's times where I think back of it, and it's like, when did Max come out? Okay, yeah, that's right. Who was it? That was Chris. Should I have done Sir Anthony instead of Chris? But no, Chris was good. Hoff, did I need to go for? Could Trey have gone? You know, it's just like, I'm still doing it, you know? So it's like, it's kind of a blur in real time.
And that's what's crazy, is that, like, you know, I haven't done it, but I just kind of am talking about it, where it's like, oh, you managed such a great World Series. I brought in Snell, and Jimenez hits a line drive to Muncy that almost kills him. He leaves Jimenez in to hit, right? Yeah. Which was the right decision. It didn't work out, but he lined up. If it's a double, he makes the best decision of all time, and I'm like, and then I'm the person saying, why do you bring in Blake Snell? That's baseball.
That's baseball. That's what we said, like, just baseball happened. You know what I mean? It's
100%.
People don't talk about that play enough, you know?
They don't.
Because we saw you.
We had him in.
I know, and we saw you guys did the wheel against Philly.
Yeah.
And it's like, we talked about it, okay, if they do it, and I trust Himmy, right? Like, he handles the bat, and it's like, hey, if you think Max or Freddie's really in, yeah, man, go for it. So it happened so quick, and it would have been another run. Ernie scores, Himmy's at second, we got top of the order coming, and then you never really know. But no one talks about that play. I don't know how he caught it.
I don't know how.
Unbelievable.
Well, it caught him, and he was in. We were expecting the bunt.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he laces a bullet, you know, at 109 off the bat.
It
almost
was
kills him.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, little things like that, baseball.
I mean, I'm still in my head at Game 5 right now. Trey
We're
Savage.
bouncing
You
back and
guys
forth.
are going right into
We're
Game
bouncing
7.
back and forth.
You Savage, a rookie, fewer than 10 starts in the big leagues, walks into Dodger Stadium and punches 12 in a swing World Series game. The balls to go and do that and to compose yourself, what does that say about Trey Savage and just his ability mentally as well as physically?
That he has a bright future. You know, a couple things. His first playoff start against the Yankees. I don't know if you've seen the video, but you know, place is going crazy. I think it's a 1-2 count. Trent Grisham calls time, and Trey didn't budge. And this is a mental cue that he has done since college, and didn't budge. And Trent looked up and kind of double took and was like, "Oh, he's ready," and he struck him out. So at that point, I'm like, okay, this kid's got a little something to him. And then it was Shohei. He hit like a little comebacker on a split, and Trey bobbled it. And for a 22-year-old kid to kind of catch it and go like that to Vladimir with him running down the line, I was like, oh, okay, he's okay. All right, he's not that nervous. And then he kind of just carried some momentum. He's got a really unique look and delivery, obviously. And teams like LA, they have such good game plans, and when they see people, they adjust. And I think there was some unknown to Trey, and that probably played into it too.
I loved Game 6 because I think it was really the culmination of what we had seen through the playoffs with the splitter. And I know there was the lodge, there was the double play, there were all these dramatic things that happened, but guys were throwing like 50% splits that night. And you have an average fastball in this series of 95.9 miles per hour. And I just wonder to myself, how does anyone hit? Like in this series too, like we saw this. Runs were difficult to come by. And that game right there, I think was the personification of that and of what baseball is now, which is pitchers with giant stuff and hitters who are just trying to do their best to put the barrel on it.
Yeah, you know, Josh Bard says it best is pitching is the threat of velocity. And I think that everyone seems like everyone throws 100, and every hitter knows it, and every hitter wants to hit the heater. But you mentioned the split, and that's the thing is that to be able to have the threat of velocity, but to use the split as Gausman does, as Yamamoto does, that's an equalizer. And I don't know how guys hit nowadays. We finished playing baseball at the right time. Because the specialization and the stuff is ridiculous. And, you know, now it's like, oh, he's 95 to 97. Guys don't bat an eye, you know, and they just calibrate, right?
It's wild. We were, this is a funny story. We were messing with old man George Springer on the road trip. And Pop put together like a highlight video of his home runs from earlier in his career. The pitches that he's hitting, it's like 91 mile an hour sinker, you know, like an 84 mile an hour, like slow slider. It's not a sweeper. It's not a split. It's not a kick change. It's not 100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're laughing at the old man like, hey, this used to be easy, you know, a little cutter edge off and you're taking the oppo, but.
And there's probably a lot of those highlights from 2017 too. At Dodger Stadium, I'm sure. Oh yeah, I know. He withheld that.
Well, yeah. Maybe, yeah. But it's I'm glad we don't have to hit. The split is so weird too because I think in the world of pitching development, guys have figured out different ways to grip it and hold it. It used to just be like, hey, you need to have these kind of fingers. And now they're all a little bit different. So it's, I think you summed that up great. The threat of velocity and then being able to play something off of it.
And I will say this, is that in this analytics world, I don't think that the analytics has caught up to the split. I think that people are afraid to coach it because of for fear for injury, which I disagree with. There's plenty of arm injuries now. And then I think that the split, the changeup, whatever it is, I don't think it registers as well with models. You know, it's like a slow fastball. So I think that a lot of times pitchers are chasing like metrics that always equates to success on the mound, which I disagree with. So I think that that's another thing but you look at Yamamoto, Gossman, Shohei, some of the great pitchers in our game that throw splits and people don't throw it.
I couldn't agree more. It's weird because when all the models that you're talking about, it's batted ball, it's spin rate, it's what kind of approach angle you're coming in at, and it's how can you predict what it's going to do or what the hitter's going to do. But the split is so unique, and it doesn't take into account a hitter's approach against it, right? So if you, like when Doc says the threat of velocity, okay, you know that you have to protect against Yamamoto's 97 or Gauzy's 97, but you also have a ball going down like this. What is that going to do to the batted ball? Probably a little bit late when you're a pull hitter, whatever it may be. So it's such a unique thing, not just as a swing and miss, but it is hard to objectify what it's going to do to a hitter because you don't know what's going on up here.
I'll say this. The way that your hitters all season long handled the pitching, it's why I fell in love with the 2025 Toronto Blue Jays. And I'll be straight up, I picked the Dodgers to win that series. I was not the only one. I think the whole universe picked them. But the fact that you guys put the ball in play, that you hit it hard, that you ran the bases well, that I just think you were like the modern ideal of a baseball team. And Dave, I appreciate the fact that earlier you mentioned that I don't know if the Blue Jays were necessarily the best team, but damn, they were fun to watch. Did you understand that coming into this series, how good they were?
I did. They took on his personality. And it's just, you know, to win that series against Seattle, who I felt could really, really prevent runs.
Oh, yes.
You have to do that by giving something up on the offensive side. And, you know, they do a good job of hunting what they want to hunt to potentially slug, but to be able to check down. And I always use the analogy, have different clubs. And, you know, no one slugs with 2 strikes. And those guys really got Pop and all these guys got their players to buy into checking down, you know, seeing the ball a tick longer, to shoot the ball the other way, to take a ball down below, to get the count deeper. They did all that stuff, ran the bases. They played team baseball. And when you get Vlad leading the charge doing that, everyone's got to buy in. And obviously George has won a championship. And so all that stuff. So it was a scary team to go up against.
Yeah. I mean, David Popkins, our hitting coach, for those that don't know here on this podcast, but, you know, former Dodger coming up and then Minnesota and us. And he uses the exact term. It's what club are you taking out and what count against what pitcher and what kind of stuff does he have? So it was kind of our MO from the start of spring training, was like, you need to be able to do this in certain counts and this in certain counts. We also kind of leaned into our personnel, right? For years, we had guys that could hit. They had like Kirk, Bo, Vlad, George. They all could put the ball in play, right? So then we're thinking, okay, we need a little bit more slug because we're not the fastest team. I think we were like 29th out of 30 in terms of foot speed. But we need, if we're going to put the ball in play, I need to line up the lineup to offset Kirky's base running or Bo's base running when he's hurt, whatever it may be. So I need to try to find some slug behind that, and then I need to put in some contact up and down the lineup. And then Vlad doing what he did in the postseason and George really made it easier. So that was kind of our identity. And Pop and Lou really took our hitting program to a different level in terms of approach, in terms of in-game adjustments. It was really, really cool to watch unfold. And our hitters were ready for it because we had really talented hitters, but they were ready for more information. They were ready to know the why. Like, hey, why am I moving like this? Why is my bat dragging here? How can I get my bat speed faster? You know, so they were ready for all that info.
All of this is prelude to one single baseball game. Around the world, 50 million people are tuning in to watch this one single baseball game. Dave, you've managed Game 7s in the World Series before. John, this was your first. What do you guys remember from before first pitch that day? Was there anything, whether it was coming to the stadium the night before, the feeling you had, or something that happened pregame that stands out to you from that day?
I think for me, I try to slow things down. I try to really, slow things down. I don't want to be too tense. I kind of intentionally try not to be too locked in too early, because I think that, when players, coaches see me so intense, I feel that naturally, organically is going to happen as we get closer to game time. So I wouldn't say I was kind of loosey-goosey, but I was more relaxed and I guess really just trying to slow things down and trying to get clarity on who's available and kind of things like that. And also trying to think about how he's going to use Scherzer and how long is he going to go and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was eerily similar where, my wife and boys were here. I left my condo here at the exact same time every postseason game. So I do try to be deliberately consistent with my thoughts, my actions, and just my messages to the guys and the staff and everyone in this building. So I remember that. I remember leaving. I remember walking the same way and doing the exact same thing that I had done every single day. And then it was, again, eerily similar. You go through your routine. You go through what you do to physically and mentally get ready. You have your meetings, you go out. There's obviously some media, but I tried to make it as normal. The biggest thing was the pitching. And it was how long is Shohei going to go on 3 days rest? Yeah. We don't know about Glass now. He pitched the night before, albeit 4 pitches. I thought in my mind, I said, there's no way Yamamoto's pitching today. I swear to you. And when I saw him get up in the bullpen, I was just dumbfounded. But so we're trying to walk through all of that, just like he's trying to walk through all of it. When's the first move going to happen? And then what do you do?
Yeah, because even setting the lineup, you just want to kind of, because Scherz did a good job of going deeper, and then that kind of wasn't helpful for us, because I try to set it to make it tougher for him to hopefully eject from Max to start that bullpen carousel. But to Max's credit, he did what he does and, gave them more length, and obviously they caught a lead too.
What time did you leave your apartment?
In the morning?
Yeah.
11:47.
Oh.
a.m. Got here at 12, and I have to have things started by 12:15. Yeah.
Any significance to the 47?
No, it just happened the first day, 11:47, and then I was like, okay. I got to the point where we had family here too, and I was kind of itching. Where are we having coffee and breakfast? It's 11:30, rolling around. And then Jess, my wife, would kind of see me. She's like,
"You need to go."
She's like, "Get out of here."
Yeah, that's the same thing. Because I'm because during games, it's you're there and
but you're not there.
You're not there, and then you're they're talking. My wife's talking, and the kids are talking, or whatever, and it's I'm just not there. And she's like, "You need to go." And I'm like, "No, I want to be here." She's like, "No, you don't. Go. Get out of here."
Same exact thing. Same exact thing. Yep.
All right, so I think when we look back on this game, we take for granted that both starting pitchers are first ballot Inner Circle Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani versus Max Scherzer. And I understand Max is in his 40s now. I don't care. Mm-hmm. He's still Max Scherzer. He is always going to be Max Scherzer. He is going to stare you down with both of you have seen the crazy eyes of Max Scherzer.
Mm-hmm. Don't touch him in between during an outing. Yeah,
I've learned
that lesson too. I learned it during a game.
Ohtani, though, is just, he's the most incredible player any of us have ever seen, and I think probably will ever see. John, what is it like trying to game plan for Shohei Ohtani?
Hard, right? Because his stuff can almost make him two separate pitchers. He can go force him at the top split. He can go sideways with a sweep. It's hard. He controls the running game. It's just really difficult to try to narrow in on something. So we tried to the best we could. You match up guys' swings versus what you think you have a better shot at. Are you a guy that can get on top of the four and maybe lay off something down low? Also throws in the curveball too, which is, do you sit on that? You know what I mean? 0-0 or something. You got to take some chances. You got to sell out. I think when Vlad has clipped them, it's been on breaking balls that are up. And, it's a really unique look because he's so long. He gets so much extension too on the heater. So he's tough, man.
Dave, what is it like to manage Shohei Ohtani?
It's actually, the hard part is, it's easy. It's easy. The hard part is the media in the sense that everything, I got to make sure that what I say is clear and doesn't get misconstrued because, you're talking about media here in the States and then media in Japan and certainly could get overblown. And I think our jobs, a lot of times, you don't want things to get lost in translation with your players because it travels fast and they're in tune with everything. Shohei reads everything. That's one part I really got to be mindful of. As far as the player, very hands-off. He's very disciplined in his routine. It's interesting that when he's a hitter, he's a little bit more jovial and like open.
You can see that.
You can see that, right?
Yeah.
And then when he's pitching, there's like an alter ego. And that's really interesting. But to be honest with you, I don't really manage him. I kind of just stay out of the way and let him do his thing. And there's a lot of players that feel, like I always say, that players need to be told they're pretty. Shohei's not one of them. He just does his own thing. He's not looking side-eyeing to see if I see what he's doing. He just does his thing, which is amazing. I do marvel at what he does. It's pretty special, obviously.
I remember we obviously met with him, right? The big meeting with Shohei a couple of years ago before he signs with LA. And the one thing that stood out to that meeting to me was we were talking about, we knew he was coming off Tommy John, and we were talking about pitching and what it would be like if he pitched for us. So we asked him if he had any questions about that. And I was there set to like kind of give the rundown on like what we thought we could do with him. And he just said, through translation about pitching is, no, I'm good. I was like, okay. Next thing.
He is like that. No, he is like that.
Like he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. And I will say the other part that is hard is like when we were building him up, I do believe things happen for a reason with my faith, but it's like with Shohei, you don't want to get him hurt. And so there are things of like when he's pitching, it's like, do I push him or it's got to make sense because if it doesn't and it goes awry, I don't want that on my record, and obviously there's a lot of things that you just can't control. But with a player like that, just really trying to be mindful of the workload and the pitches and all that kind of stuff.
That's got to be wild, just in terms of how we can track stuff these days. Yeah. And with his bullpens, his catch play, his swings, like that's got to be wild for you to stay on top of. Just with regular players, I don't want to say regular, one-way players, it's hard to do.
Right.
I can't imagine with that.
Yeah.
And not just that, he's going on short rest for the first time in his career in this start. And, Max at the start of the game, relatively clean first inning, looks pretty good coming out. Shohei gives up a leadoff single to George Springer. By the way, how did George Springer play?
Hey, George couldn't throw with his wrist, but he could hit somehow. Basically had an oblique injury.
Yeah, which is normally how long?
Right.
4 to 6 weeks?
6 weeks at least.
And then gets hit in the knee against Seattle. So, this guy is just like, he's grinding. But that's who he is. George, for as much crap as he gets, right? Just because we can talk about it, right? I've known the dude 6 years, and I got so much respect for him as a husband, a father, and a baseball player, and a teammate. And how he can navigate certain parts of the year is just what makes him really, really special.
Yeah, I've always respected the way he's played the game.
He
sells out.
Goes.
He's a championship player. The dude leaves it out there every single time. And, at the bat, he has a plan every time he gets in there. He's a great leader. You can see it from the other side.
Scoreless through one, go into the second. Scherzer's good again in the second. Ohtani loads the bases and blows 99 by Jimenez and sort of escapes out of that. Max keeps cruising right through the third inning. What is your leash on him going into the game, and does it evolve as you see him, hey, like, this is Max Scherzer right here.
Yeah, like Doc said earlier in this, you have a kind of a plan. You don't want to say a script, but you have a plan of matchups that you want to grasp. And Shohei is obviously going to be circled, not just third time through, every time through, right? So we kind of had a plan. And then I'm just watching what Max is doing. I'm just watching what he's given us and what his stuff looks like. And, then you start to deviate a little bit from your conversations, and you try to land with who you want facing certain points of the lineup each time. And that's kind of what it was. And I think he came out, it was 4 1/3 or 5 1/3?
4
1/3, right? Came out in the 5th.
Yep.
And handled himself like we thought he would, and he knew it was time for him to hand it over to the pen, because he's done Game 7s before too. The cool part for me was talking through it with Max before the game. He always comes and talks to you the day he starts about how he's feeling, state of our bullpen, what we need right now, all that kind of stuff. And so it was cool for me, my first Game 7, to have a guy that's done it before.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, is that I respect John so much, because early on, I didn't deviate from plans as far as, I knew that they didn't want him to face Ohtani 3 times. But the way the game was playing, the way Max was throwing the baseball, and there wasn't stress, and to keep going, that was a credit to John, absolutely.
And I think it probably.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wish I kept him in. No, I'm kidding.
I think it probably helped that you got a lead there in the 3rd inning, and George is on second after second straight leadoff single. You have the choice there. Do I let Shohei face Vladdy again? And you alluded to this earlier. What went into the idea of walking him there?
I just thought it was easy. Once there was an open base, I just felt that, in the postseason, certainly in an elimination game, you're counting outs, and every run, every out is important. And I just felt that with Bo not running well, he was a double play candidate. And so for me, it's like you have the guy that's swinging better than anybody in the postseason at bat, and I have a guy that, hasn't played a whole lot. If we could put him on the ground, then we have a chance. And, he's a middle speed hitter, in my opinion, and we left a middle speed pitch in the hitting zone, and he made us pay. So I would do the same thing again and hope for a different result.
I was going to say, I'm going to show you guys some occasional videos here. John, when you see this moment, look at the expanse of the stadium, and that is a hanging slider.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the noise?
Yeah.
Because that, to me, being in this ballpark, I mean, I was sitting in left field down the line where they have all the media, and you can see the trajectory of the ball because we're almost parallel with the fence there. And that was a home run.
Yeah. Just listening to Doc kind of talk through that, I would have done the exact same thing he did for the exact same reasons. And we knew we were playing a hobbled Bo. You know what I mean? And that, to me, here was my thought process in that moment. That, to me, was best possible outcome for us, because it generated 3 runs and Bo didn't have to run the bases.
Right.
And it just, you know what I mean? Because I didn't have to think about, that bought me another couple innings of him on defense. You know what I mean? Because we had a lead. So, but that was my thought. The noise, it was, it was louder than George's Game 7 homer against Seattle in the 7th inning. And I remember thinking, this is one of the times I tried to go into fan mode in a really, really crazy moment. Watching him come around the bases and just seeing Vlad there kind of with open arms and a hug. And those 2 guys that have been through so much, and I've kind of been through it with him in the minors. It was kind of like,
you have gone every step.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Like that was a cool moment for me to watch them kind of have that moment, and you're thinking, okay, man, if we're going to do this, this is pretty, pretty symbolic of what these guys have been for the organization.
Yeah, because I think even right there, it's like guy on third base, and I don't even want to sack. I don't want to give up any runs. You're trying to figure out, I don't want to give up any runs, and so. A different game, maybe early on, if it was a Game 1, would I have done it? Probably not.
Yeah.
Knowing we have a lot more baseball to play, if he does hit a grounder or a sac fly, I can live with that. But in Game 7, every run mattered. That's why I went for the 0 and gave up 3.
And you got one back there. You got one back in the next inning. How much more urgently, though, are you managing when you are facing a 3-0 deficit in a Game 7 where you've spent 9 of your outs already, where you know, like, the clock's ticking a little bit here?
Oh, you see, I mean, we felt that we couldn't give up any more runs. And we wanted to hang in there. And I remember there's a play, I don't remember what inning it was, but Varsho made a great play off Teo's ball, the line drive in one of those innings. But yeah, there was crazy sense of urgency. And you can see, I mean, bring starters into the middle of an inning, which John knows is like, they haven't done that. So you're trying to give them a clean inning and all this kind of stuff. But then at this point in time,
It was
you're
all
just like,
starters that game,
oh, it's
too.
like, there's just a certain amount of guys that are in your trust tree that you're just like, you don't want to hear that they've never done it. You're like, hey, these are the guys, and you're going to run them out there.
Yeah, I learned that against Seattle, where it was Game 7, and in comes Kevin Gausman and Chris Bassett. You know what I mean? It was just like, okay, who you going out with? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and you felt good about that. But it was at that point, yeah, they scored. They scored in the top of the 4th, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was Max. And then Max always talks about when you have a run-scoring inning, whether you're trying to respond to a team scoring, if you ask him right now, he's like, I didn't do my job to get a 0 after we scored.
Stranded the bases loaded that inning too. And let's go to the bottom of the 4th. And this is how much this game had that as I was rewatching it, I completely forgot.
This is the bottom of the 4th?
Yes.
I don't know if I've gotten this far yet.
Nor have I.
Watching.
I completely forgot that the benches and bullpens empty.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And ironically, that guy's throwing tonight.
Yeah. I'm leading Jimenez off. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot that goes into this too, because all right, go ahead, play it.
No, please.
I didn't notice this. I mean, I didn't know he does this.
He does.
He sticks his hand out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
So he stuck his hand out, and then he actually gets hit.
right.
John, hold on, you're about to run out. What are you saying here?
Don't pull a hammy. For one.
I've done that one.
No, I think right there, it's just like,
I was reading your lips, and I believe it was Jesus Christ. I'm not sure, though.
it may have. I just didn't want that to be a part of the game.
Right.
Holy cow, we're like, let's just, yeah, it probably was that, because I wanted to get everyone away. I remember too, I think I told Freddie this in real time as I was walking to first with him after. I think at one point I had like my arms around Will Smith, and I hated that. And I remember Will looked right at me, his mask on, and he told me to get off of him. And I said, hey, my bad. But
There's you and Freddie.
yeah, so I was going to Hemi, and like once that I did that, I was like, yo, Fred, please tell Will like that I did not, I'm never putting my hands on a guy. I was just trying to separate guys. And I got all the respect of the world. He was, I think during that moment too, this is Freddie Freeman, he was like, hey man, congrats on a great year, man. You're really doing
That's
great.
so him.
I was like, me?
Yeah, I know.
He was like, hey, man, you're doing a great job. Man.
That's right.
Like I was like,
Gratitude,
thanks,
levity,
thanks,
that's Freddie, yeah.
In the middle of Game 7 of the World
Yeah.
Series, after the benches
Yeah.
have cleared, the bullpens have come out, everyone's been separated.
Yeah, it was like-
Freddie Freeman gave you a pat on the back.
I was like, hey, thanks, man.
And then my only focus was Robo. I was going to the pitcher. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to get him settled down so he can keep going, because we needed him to finish that inning.
Right. Yeah, so there was that, and then like I remember, Hoff and Kirby Yates got into it, and I ended up out there, and Pete didn't have a hat on. I remember at one point, I'm like, what are we doing? I'm like, let's just stop. I'm sure everyone said things that they didn't mean.
Right.
But I just wanted it to be about the game at that point.
And we got back to that.
Yeah.
Scherzer comes out after 4 1/3. You go to Louis Varland.
Mm-hmm.
That phrase,
Shockingly.
that phrase was spoken
Lou's
a
going to
lot,
pitch every game.
a lot in October. You guys played 18 games, I believe, and Louis pitched in 15 of them. And I've wondered over time, and Dave, I've wondered this because you have had to lean on guys in postseasons past again and again and again, and the familiarity penalty that comes into play there. When you're at the end of a series, when you're at the end of a season, Do you just say, screw everything, I'm going with the guys who I trust and who I think are going to go out there and fight for me?
Not screw everything, but you definitely feel better about the guys that you really trust. And Louis is so unique because he's really durable. He's been a starter, and we felt good about his added changeup and his pitch mix, really. So even if he had faced certain guys, that part of the order, we felt like he could deploy different pitches too. So liked him anywhere, really. He was kind of our hot hand, and definitely had to check with him every day with how he was feeling physically. And he's just like, I mean, any manager would love him. He's like, hey, Skip, whatever you need.
Yeah, they're great kids. Barland boys are great.
Yeah.
Are guys ever going to say no to you, though?
Some do.
Do they?
Some veteran guys say like, hey, like I'll talk to like Kev or Max throughout and like, hey, did you empty the tank? He's like, hell yeah, I'm done. I'm like, okay.
Max is good about that.
Yeah.
He would say that, hey, I got one more inning, or I can go out there and get this hitter and then, come get me. He was smart like that. And as a manager, it's very helpful because we've already banked the compete part. You care, you're competitive, you want it. Okay, let's put that aside. Now how do you feel?
Yeah.
And that's where you get really good stuff.
Yeah. Younger guys, they'll be like, yeah, I'm good. Good. And I'm like, are you? Yeah, all right.
Then it's a 4-pitch walk.
Right.
And you're like, I guess you weren't good.
Glasnow comes in to replace Wroblewski, and he had just pitched the previous night, and he's also a starting pitcher, and he gets through the bottom of the fifth clean. Then you go to Chris Bassett, and Bassett comes in to replace Louis, and it's almost like you guys emptied both of your rotations in this game. What does it say about starting pitchers that have the ability and willingness to come into situations that they are wholly unfamiliar with and go out there and do their jobs just the same?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's like, that's just the competitor. And every player wants to be a part of winning a championship. Every person, every player has dreamt of a Game 7. And I think it's just, again, that's why Game 7s are so great, because there's no tomorrow, as we always say, there's always tomorrow. It's all hands on deck. In this series, it literally was all hands on deck. Yamamoto, Gossman, Snell, it didn't matter who. You're talking about Varland, we just mentioned. And everyone, there's no egos, and it's like, I'll do whatever I can to help this team in whatever capacity. And I think in that series, that's where I think that the media, the fans, each respective team and manager appreciated that series, because we use guys in crazy different roles, right?
Oh man, it's you look at we used Max, Trey, Chris, and Bieber, and he used starters too. You know what I mean? It's like, Yamamoto, Kershaw was coming in after him. You know what I mean? And then you got Glass now, you got Snell. It's like, it was really weird. And I think that's, the game has evolved a little bit to that point. And I think starting pitchers are a different breed, for one. Like their compete engine is just ridiculous. And when you get into the postseason, the ones I've dealt with, like Chris couldn't wait to pitch out of the bullpen at some capacity. He
was so good in that role.
He was awesome.
Too.
He was so good too. And Biebs couldn't wait. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, Schneid, Game 7. I don't give a damn if I'm coming off Tommy John, whatever. Like,
and these guys are all of them are so routine, driven, and they're smart, and they have to have their routines and their prep. But like Game 7 or whatever in the World Series, it's like whatever you need. And then as a manager, it's like there's nothing more gratifying or joyful when a player goes, I don't care, whatever you need, just when you call my number, I'm ready.
Yep.
And you don't have to fight any egos or any there's no conversation that needs to be had, right?
That's a real thing. That is a luxury to have.
Oh, it's the best.
So it's 3-2. You guys score another run. Jimenez doubles in Ernie Clemente, I think.
Yep.
You guys get one back. Max Muncy hitting a home run off of Trey. Top 9. 3 outs to get. Jeff Hoffman's your closer all season long.
Yep.
Guy you're giving the ball there. No question about that at that point. I think everyone's looking 3 batters down.
I was.
Yep.
Kike, 8-hole. Miguel Rojas 9-hole, best player on the planet in that last out potentially. Dave, you started Miguel Rojas in Game 6. You have said this was a gut choice, that you felt like he was the right man for the job. Why? What about Miguel Rojas was it that convinced you that in these most seminal moments, he's the one you want out there?
I think after Game 5, that was the first thing I did on my phone. I said, Miggy, you're starting at second base tomorrow. And he gave me the salute emoji, and he said, I got you, Doc. And I think for me, it's one of those things that, and I know John has guys like this, where it's like, they're the glue guys. Mm-hmm. And I just felt that they had all the momentum. We needed to kind of change the mojo. And nothing against Andy Pages, but, in an elimination game, with experience in life, or in this case, in his career, this might have been his last year, 25. And so I wanted to have as many guys in that lineup, in that game, that their lives, they were going to leave it all out there. Because an example is like, if Andy's struggling, which he was, and we lose Game 6, he's going to go to the offseason and goes, I had a bad offseason, and I'll get him next year. Where Miggy, he was going to do everything. This could be his last time putting on a uniform. So he was going to live and die on that field. And so I think that we needed that infusion to raise the floor for our guys. Now it's like, okay, Miguel Rojas is in there. I know that he's going to impact us defensively. And his at-bats, he's going to fight every single pitch. And I felt and I was going to ride or die with that. So that's why when you get to Game 7, where it's like, I'm in bed with this guy. I know the numbers say Alex Call would take a better at-bat. Hae-Sung Kim, fine. But it's like, I just think that this guy is going to give us everything he can. And I was hoping for a walk.
Did you think he was going to pinch hit?
No, because he started him against Max and he played him in Game 6 against Gauze. And I think at that point it's like Kike is such a good postseason performer for them too. Yeah, I think you have the guys that you want on the field. I wasn't thinking. It's funny. I can vividly remember, and I'm sure you look at all your projections and head-to-head stuff. So I can say, and this is no offense to anyone, that Hoffman versus Rojas was the best on the sheet.
The best.
Oh, absolutely.
For Jeff Hoffman, in relation to every other person that was on the Dodgers roster on that day. And baseball happened. And so it's like Doc says, he said Alex Call could have given you a better bat, you switch-handedness, whatever you want to do. You trust people, So like whatever that projection is, it's not quantifying what Miggy's thinking about in real time.
Every team has a different version of this, but what you're talking about, John, is there is essentially a column here with the hitters and rows here with the pitchers, and you color code each thing to whether the matchup is favorable or unfavorable.
And there's a projection of numbers of what the OPS potentially could be.
Yeah.
Yep.
On base plus slug.
That, or what's the contact quality like? What's the strikeout rate?
And everyone has their own.
Every team's is a little bit different, but those are some of the tools that you guys have that in the moment, while the World Series is bearing down on you, you're trying to dig through and figure out.
And we've done it enough day to day. You look at the number and you go, okay, this is why. And like Doc said, he's hoping for a walk to get to Shohei. That's baked into that projection, on base percentage or plate discipline. But, part of our projection of that probably was, hey, ground out or pop up, fly out. It's not like a slam dunk punch out, but it's like, hey, something like that, not the actual outcome.
I think the look on your face, Dave, sort of said it all. And John, I'm just going to tilt this away from you.
I've seen this.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us.
It was a great at bat. I mean, he spoiled the heater, and you can see he was kind of trying to guard against the breaking ball, but he spoiled the heater. He took some close pitches, and then he had a pitch that sped up his bat.
Yeah.
That was where, speaking for John, we don't go into fan mode very often because you got to think about what might or might not happen. But that moment when he hit the homer, that wasn't on my bingo card. So I went into fan mode right there, and I just couldn't believe it. And I didn't have a response to that play because I was just a fan celebrating that moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
That's pretty.
I mean, literally,
pretty
hands on the. Also,
organic right there.
Yeah.
what flew out of your mouth? I hear you have a signature dip.
Well, no, it's gum, and then there's like a little sprinkle of a little something that I just make it dark.
It's a little sprinkle, huh?
Yeah, but it's a lot of it's 2 pieces of sugar-free gum, and then there's like a little sprinkle.
I have a hard time fathoming what it's like for you guys having to make these decisions in real time. That months later now we can sit back and look at and question, or you can question yourself in bed at night these days. But in that moment, home run happens. What's the first thing that you need to do to get your team's mindset right where it should be?
For one, they were really good at moving on to the next important thing, you know, and as much of a gut punch as that, I feel like our season, right, last year, you know, I wish Pete Walker was sitting here next to me. We gave up homers. We gave up some damage. And when you look at how they came back and scored, you know, between Max and then Miggy and then Will hitting the homer off Biebs, they're all hanging breaking balls. And that kind of just summed up our season for whatever reason. But I think you flip it to where we knew who was coming up in our order. We didn't really care at that point. We trusted everybody, but it was, okay, we need to find a way to generate one run. That's it. You know, that's all we need to worry about right now. And just almost did it with Vlad on a 3-0 pitch. And you know what's crazy is, you know, Vlad doesn't like swinging 3-0. He has told me since he's basically been a teenager that he's saving it for the World Series. And I usually just call, you know what I mean? And that's,
Wow.
and if you look at his career, he doesn't do it much. And he was sitting changeup. I think the whole world knows that. He wasn't out in front of it on a heater. He was sitting on it.
Yep.
And he just missed it. So
It was just off the end of the bat.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just up out enough. He couldn't pull it. But yeah, we were just trying to like, okay, we feel good about generating a run. I went into who's going to run for Bo if he gets. I started thinking about that after the home run happened.
Yep.
That's kind of just where you go to.
Is that just muscle memory at that point? Like,
Yeah.
flush it, figure out what's next.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Doc does too. I have like physical cues that I do in the moment where I'm like, I need to lock it back in. So like I trained myself to do that. That was definitely one of those times. And it just kind of becomes, back to managing work. But leading up to that though, like, I mean, we talked about the Hemi bunt that Max caught. And I started talking to Donnie and Pete and DeMarlo in the bottom of the 8th about, again, nothing against Kike and Miggy, but it was like, hey, you walking Shohei. With 2 outs and nobody on, you know? So we were digging on it. Ernie hits a double. I put the bunt on with the option, okay, whatever. So I'm talking about all this stuff. I'm watching Hemi do this. Max just caught that ball. Okay, let me go back here and talk about Shohei. And it was funny, Scherzer walked by. You probably heard this story, but Max walked by, and we're pretty tight over just 1 year. And I said, hey, what do you got? You pitching to Shohei, 2 outs and nobody on. And like quick, he was like, whatever you think. He goes, you've been making the right call all year. And he walked away. And I was like, dude, I wanted to hear something. But that was cool he said that.
That's awesome.
You know, and for whatever it's worth, we were going to pitch to him, even if he had gotten Rojas out. That's where my head was.
I mean, that's the right choice, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, man. There you go. It's your closer versus your best hitter. Go ahead. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Plus, the dude behind him is killing the ball.
And I'll say it's interesting. It's like, and I think Will hit a curveball. And the thing is, though, is that he doesn't. That if you're looking at the numbers, that's the pitch against right-handed pitchers that he doesn't hit. That's the pitch he hits the least. And so that's one of those things that, it was a curveball, and he got to it and put a good swing on it.
The day before, in this room, you said everyone's available. Jack Harris follows up with a question. Even Yamamoto? And you said, no. When did that change?
That was for sure right before. That's gamesmanship because I didn't want them to know that he was available. Did I know he was 100% available? No. But I'm not going to say he's available to then have Yamamoto on their radar at all.
Was he on your radar?
Hell yeah. But I was still surprised. I was still surprised because the momentum is a real thing. What he had done to us, in game 2 and game 6, you're like, damn, that is a tough freaking matchup right now. So I was just more surprised that he was physically able to do it. But I mean, we even like Gauze was about to get his spikes on. He threw the night before. It was kind of the same way. Now, could he have given us 40 pitches? Like what Yamamoto did is historic. It is a legendary performance on the biggest stage of this game. Yeah. It is. That will go.
And not to mention, in game 3, he got loose and he was hot.
Yeah, like who is this guy?
That's after pitching game 2, so he gets hot. He was hot in the pen.
CG in 2, dry humped in 3.
Yep. 96 pitches in 6.
Yeah, 6 innings, 96 pitches in 6. And we'll get to 7.
I like the way you said dry hump because we can't say that. You can say that.
Got him hot, didn't get it. Yeah. I will say this: because I think Yamamoto came out in the 6th inning of Game 6. I believe it was the 6th, and I turned to Mark Budzinski, who was in after that half inning. I said, I think that might have just won us a series. Just because at that point I didn't think he'd pitch Game 7, and then afterwards I was like, okay, he's probably gonna fucking pitch.
I believe it was bottom 8 when Yamamoto starts warming up.
Okay. I guess.
I think. I tried to look back at the broadcast. I tried to look back on Twitter. I couldn't find that exact moment. Do you remember though making that phone call?
I do. I told Mark because we knew that he was going to pitch, and for me, you're just trying to figure out when to deploy him because you don't know what you got as far as how many bullets he has. So I think that at that point in time, we exhausted, 4 or 5 pitchers or whatever, and it was like, all right, this is the time, and I think I brought him into an inning, right? Did I bring him into an inning?
You did. Well, let's.
You brought him in the 9th.
Yeah, he came in.
Okay, so I started warming him up in the 8th.
Yeah.
Who was pitching in the 8th inning?
Snell.
Okay, so Snell was pitching.
Yes.
And
Vladdy 3-0.
Yep.
Fly out. Bo single.
And it started getting a little fuzzy for him. And then again, we're trying to keep this game where it is, and we can't afford to give any more runs because I think Glass gave up an extra run, that 4th run.
Let's look at this right here, guys. This is the play.
Yeah.
That has been dissected.
What do you mean? I haven't heard anything about this play.
Can you tell me what your perspective is? This was the play. Bases loaded. Dalton Varsho at the plate. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa on third base. Will Smith gets him out on an off-balance throw by Miguel Rojas by a literal spike.
Yeah.
Which he had to toe tap back on there. A lot's been made, John, of Izzy's lead. Should he have run through the bag? Can you just give me your whole perspective on that play?
Absolutely. Looking at it now, I think what we could have done as a staff is have Izzy get off the base a little bit more. Now, we do know Will backpick to Max at third. That's in our advance report, right? Izzy is a very smart baseball player. He's aware of that. I do think that the odds of Dalton lining out to the third baseman are probably pretty low.
Hadn't done it all year.
Right. Okay. So, and third baseman's going to be keeping the runner close for obvious reasons. Yamamoto could pick. The dude's an athlete. So all these things are in Izzy's mind, right? So that's that. I think when the play happened, when the ball's put in play, I'm thinking, okay, Varsh it's not going to be a double play. When I saw Miggy stumble and I knew Izzy was at third, I wasn't watching his actual primary, to be honest, and secondary. I did the first pitch, and I kind of remember him being like real wide. And then the next, I think it was a 2-1 count to Varsh. I was just watching the ball, and as I see Miggy stumbling, here's my thought process. Just because of a baseball cadence, I thought one of 3 things was going to happen. I thought the ball was going to sneak under his glove, and we win. I thought he was going to catch it, fall down, and kind of throw a worm burner up from his ass to the mound. We win. Or third, it was going to be catch it, fall, and throw wide. So that was in within 1 second. So when he did the kind of the third one and threw it, I'm just waiting for it to go to the backstop, and it never did. So it was
I can see that.
and that was all in real time. You know what I mean? And then I was like, I think I just challenged without even looking at DeMarlo. I didn't even see Will's foot come off at first. I didn't know it was that close. So, and as far as running through the plate, if there was one person who I thought would do it, it would be Izzy, because when we had him in 2024, we talked about the play when you do that at second to try to get a run with first and third.
Yes.
And he was all in on it. I think he actually did it once, and I think he did it once with Pittsburgh too. So I know he has said since that he was trying to break up a double play with Varsh running, but baseball happened. Guy made a great play. But that was going through my head. That was it.
What's going through your head during that play?
I want the ball on the ground, and you're just hoping to get the ball on the ground because at that point in time, Varsh is a good runner.
Which is why you had the infield in, because the likelihood of a double play there.
It's probably not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Definitely likes to pull the baseball. So obviously we're trying to get him on the ground. And so, yeah, he had Varsh had count leverage. We didn't give in and puts it on the ground. And then Miggy makes this unbelievable off balance. And then it's just like, I like the ball on the ground. And then he stumbles, and then you're just kind of holding your breath. And then he makes the throw. And we practice infield in every single day. And this guy, that was one of the reasons he was inserted. You know, the heartbeat, the ability to catch it and make a strong throw. And I don't think people appreciate, I know John just said, is like to be off balance and to like not airmail that ball arm side is incredible. The skill set.
Did it the other night in DC.
And did in DC on his knees. I mean, it's like that. The level of difficulty is insane. So for him to make that play and will to hold the plate was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Earlier that inning, you brought in Andy Pajes too, and that was for his arm. That was for primarily.
That was for the arm.
Okay.
Because Varsh up a medium fly ball, Tommy's not going to throw out IKF. And so, that was
a great move.
That was one of the things that, you're just trying to manage on the margins. And so there was like a little stoppage in play. I think it was like, there was something going on, and I just like, I saw Andy at the end, and I was like, I got to get him in the game and get Tommy out. And so he was ready when called upon. He had some time in between to get his arm loose.
Yep.
And then, but I didn't forecast what happened, next.
I mean, it's just those little things that you guys do that wind up having an enormous effect on baseball history. And you never know it in the moment.
Did you prepare for that situation as the ninth inning started or no? No. It was just right there.
It was just right there.
I need a better arm because the bases are loaded.
Yep. Okay. That's right. Because then it's like in that situation, I'm trying to look at every single possibility that could happen that could cost us the game.
Yeah, because it made total sense when I saw him going in because we know about the arm.
Yep.
And we know Varsh is a fly ball hitter.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's a fly ball hitter. And you just felt that Yamamoto was just not going to give in. Mm-hmm. And that's what, the great pitchers are just not going to give in. They play poker.
Yeah.
I totally forgot that Yamamoto came into the game by this point, by the way.
He was the one pitching again.
I totally skipped over that.
He pitched the whole series. I
was going to say, you could point at any inning in the series, and Yamamoto probably was in there. When he came in and you saw the stuff was every bit as good as it was the previous time during the series, are you just asking yourself how? Because we do not see this. We do not see anything like this, particularly in the modern game. And for him to do it in Game 7 of the World Series, no less, it made it that much more special, I think.
Yeah, as soon as we saw him getting up, we were expecting it to be normal stuff. We weren't expecting 91 with a little get me over curveball.
I know, but the thing is that in the eighth inning, or the ninth inning, he hit Kirk. His first hitter, he hits Kirk with the split.
Yeah.
And then that loads the bases, and I'm just like, oh no, right?
That was how it happened. So right there in my mind, I was like, okay, the clock has struck midnight maybe on this guy. Mm-hmm. And he just didn't give in.
That's right.
Yeah. What was crazy too was Ernie's at bat. Are you getting there? Sorry, because
I'm here right now, actually. So Ernie Clement is up. More hits than anyone in postseason history in one postseason, and I mean put a really good swing on it. Do you know how far Andy Pages ran to catch that ball?
127 feet. Is that right?
121 feet.
Yeah.
Nice.
121 feet in the air for 5.5 seconds. Wow, you really do know all the numbers from this game. Don't
He's a
you?
numbers guy.
Wow.
Wow.
Did you think it was dropping?
I thought it was over Kike's head. I thought it might be gone. I think with the roof open, Ernie hit a ball off Max Fried with the roof open. That should have never went out. But Ernie was sitting curveball. I know that, which is ballsy against him, against Yamamoto. I mean, he was sitting on it and he got it. And yeah, looking at it, I've looked at this play. I think Kike would have caught it if Pages wasn't there. I tell myself that. But the fact that Pages did not fall when they collided is just like, to me, the only thing I go to is the determination that must be going through his mind to not let another human being alter his way.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's like Kike broke in because it was a breaking ball down below. Yeah. So then you're reading that, right, the pitch and then the swing. And Ernie does a great job of riding balls out, soft stuff. So then he rides it out, but Andy gets a great jump. The line was perfect to left center field. And it's one of those things that we always talk about communication, but the cool thing about that one is no one said a word. They were both going for that ball no matter what. So it was like do or die, and that was pretty cool. And I was waiting for that ball. I was hoping that ball didn't pop out.
Yeah,
because
that's
the collision,
what I was looking for. Yeah,
that's the collision. And the cool thing is that Kike, falls to the ground, and Andy's asking him, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And then Kike's like, I don't care about how I am. Do you have the ball?" And he goes, "I have the ball." And then he just gets up and then they sprint in. So that was obviously a huge play, and we'll talk about that.
It was wild too because the emotion of the play at the plate, you're like, oh my God, he almost won. Okay, challenge. Okay, all right, he's out. Okay. And then it was first pitch. It happened again. I was just like, I had to walk into the tunnel and take out my dip and put in a new dip. And at that point, it was just too much for like a 30-second span. I was like, what are we doing here? So,
and it was not even the culmination of this game because we're going to extra innings in Game 7 of the World Series. And at that point, Dave, you guys load the bases. And they get out of it. What made the Blue Jays such a good foil for your team?
Oh, my gosh. Well, I just think that Clement, I can't stop thinking about Clement and his at-bat quality. The guys are just, I think for me is like those guys, they're just tough. I think the thing is that, I try to get, we talk about the talent of our team a lot. But I think for me is the thing I'm most proud is that our guys are just tough. And we pride ourselves on being tougher than anyone. In any circumstance, we don't make excuses, and we just fight. And then you go into a World Series against a team that's just as tough. And so that's what's scary, because they're going to be unfazed, or they're not going to relent, they're not going to quit until the end. And so I think for us, that's something that they can keep taking punches. There's certainly no intimidation. And even to that 10th inning or whatever, 11th, whatever it is, that where Vlad leads off with a double, it's like they won't go away. And so I think for me, it's like that's something that scared me.
I mean, you guys, you load the bases in the top. Yamamoto comes back, 1, 2, 3 inning, pumping 97.
Yeah, that inning, that inning is a blur to me. I think that
he was up he was down 3-0 against Springer, and came back.
Punched him out.
Yeah. Six straight strikes, and finally got him.
Yeah,
punched him out there. Miles Straw ends up punching on 97.
Yeah. Yeah, because I had pinch hit Schneid against Snell to try to add on in the 8th, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And then I was like, when he came off the mound that time, I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he goes, "Daijobu," and that means I'm good. And so that's when I was like, okay, because he had a good inning, and I'm like, how much can I push this guy? Because I don't want to hurt this guy.
Yeah.
How much did you think you could push him?
I thought that was going to be it, but the stuff was so good and I was going to go to Kirsch, and I was just kind of trying to figure out, because at that point in time, Roki didn't have a good postseason. He was good in Philly. And then for me, I just felt the confidence was wavering. The stuff wasn't good. I thought they had a really good beat on him. And so it was going to be Kirsch, and, I was going to just ride with Kirsch. But I wanted to see how much I can get out of Yamamoto.
Yeah, I remember that inning. I was thinking the same thing with Trey. I thought I was going to throw Trey one. And when he came in after in double play, I said, "You good?" He like hell yeah me, and I was like, "Okay." And then home run, it's but that's what happens in these games.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're going with Shane. His arm's hanging a little at that point. How much did you think you could get out of him?
I thought a couple innings before we'd turn it over to somebody else, and that was. In the postseason, the likelihood of extra innings and then the likelihood of longer extra innings because of no ghost runner, we talk about that. And we said if we got to the point where we were past Sir Anthony and Hoff and Chris, it'd be Shane. And we like him, really at a righty, if possible. And I forget who was leading off. I don't know I know Will was third. It was top of the order. It was Shohei. And he gets him to ground out, I think.
Yep.
No. It was Miggy. It was Miggy, Shohei, and then Will got him.
Because Will was hitting second.
Right. So we liked him kind of in that pocket. He got Shohei on a little cutter, and just the hanging breaking ball. But that was our plan. It's all hands on deck, and Beeves was on board with it too, and just didn't work out.
And then also to give context to that series is I don't know. We played. So with the 18-inning game, it's like we played 8 games in 9 days.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like people then, so you're talking about pitching, and it's like everyone's hanging.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even a normal 7-game series with 2 days off. It's 8 games with the 18 innings, right? So it's like, we're trying to piece it together in any way we possibly can.
Yeah. I know there's people that gave me some crap about the moves I made in game 3. About pinch running or defending, which is kind of what we did all year. And then I think those same people were like, "Oh man, but his team was fresher in game 4 because half the team goes out of the game." It's like, you don't freaking know that, but you guys are all hanging. You know what I mean? They are all exhausted.
Will Smith caught every inning, and it's like, I could have, if we lose that thing or he goes over, they're telling me, why did I catch him? He's exhausted. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it goes, but you just got to go with your guys and do the best you can.
The dude that caught every inning hit the game-winning homer in the last inning of Game 7.
Right.
Think about that.
And then everyone could say he was fatigued and I pushed him too much. Of course. Everyone's pushed too much. It's baseball.
Yeah.
What does it say about Will Smith that in a lineup with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani that he has been able to distinguish himself as the star that he is as well?
I think it's character, it's humility, and I say that because, there's no self-promotion. He knows who he is. He's comfortable with who he is. He's comfortable with who's around him, and that, along with the talent, is a superpower because everything is authentic.
Yes.
And so I think that with Will, he can, in the same moment that he hits the homer, if Beeves didn't give him anything to hit, he would have taken the walk to give his teammate the opportunity. And that's just who he is. And if the opportunity presents itself, there's no panic, and he can get a big hit. So, and he can hold a plate in a big spot. That's just who he is. And we're lucky to have him.
I want to show you guys a swing here. How in the hell does Vladimir Guerrero
pulls his hands in right there, doesn't he?
Get to this pitch?
Look at that. That ball's 97, boring in on his hands. Keeps it fair.
He was on a different planet that whole postseason.
I mean, and here's the thing. You guys needed that.
Yeah.
Because when Will Smith hits that home run, Rojas, that's a gut punch. Smith, that's another one.
Yeah, now you're down. Yeah. Right? Now it's not tied. Now it's
then you get their leader that does that against our ace, and then he's looking at the bench.
Yeah.
encouraging his teammates, the entire country of Canada, putting them on his shoulders. And the next play I think that people don't appreciate is that bunt.
Yeah.
That was a heck of a bunt and a heck of a play by a good
Yamamoto.
runner.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Down the line, right? And he makes that play seamlessly.
Yep.
It was a perfect
That's
bunt.
first and third base, nobody out.
Yeah. It was a perfect bunt, and it was an unbelievable play.
Yep. Was Barger an unintentional, intentional walk?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys figure that was coming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first and third, Alejandro Kirk at the plate. All you're looking for is a ground ball. All you're looking for is a fly ball. And Yamamoto, he's one of those rare pitchers who has high strikeouts and high ground ball rates, like the ideal kind that you're looking for. Did you just figure splitter, curveball, everything is going to be below the zone there? And how does Kirk approach in a bat?
Yeah, I think we figured, and Kirk, you can. I don't want to speak for him, but I think it was going to be heavy sink, heavy split, and that was not the best matchup for Kirky's swing. And I think it was a split on the edge, and broke his bat, and it was like slow motion. You could see the whole thing. It was going to be a perfect hop to Mookie, and we all know, Kirky isn't winning any sprinting contests, but. The thing is, we practice those situations every day in BP. Like Pop will do it every day. It's first and third, one out, get the ball in the air, get the ball in the air. Easier said than done in BP than against a guy like that. But the Barger part, I know was kind of an intentional, but you never know with a pitcher of that caliber that might just say, hey, I got this guy, and might make a mistake. So that was the reason for the bunt. That was kind of how we're built, what we asked guys to do all year.
I mean, none of the pitches to Barger were particularly close, but Barger can chase a little bit.
Sure.
So you never know.
Oh, it was the right play, 100%,
Yeah.
because you get a guy that handles the bat so well. And for me, it's like I saw the first swing, I think, and I was thinking for a tie game, to be honest with you, because I was thinking that guy was going to drive on. Especially, you look at that series, how many times he shot the 4-hole. That was a surprise for me, is that his first swing, he came off the ball and trying to get the head out. Kirky.
Yeah.
Where I was surprised, I just felt that if he would have done what he's always done, what he always did against us, and I guarantee if you look back at their season and him with the 4-hole exposed, he has the ability to shoot that hole. And early in the series, he wasn't, and then he did it a couple times, and then he really got on track. I thought it lended itself to that. So I was actually thinking about, okay, they're gonna tie this game up. And I was not expecting that grounder to Mookie. I really wasn't.
He was probably, if not our second best at doing that besides Bo last year.
Yep.
What did Yoshinobu Yamamoto do that night in that series? How do you characterize and contextualize what he was able to do going back after Game 6, going back after the CG in Game 2, and giving you those 2+ innings in Game 7?
I mean, he just got into legendary status. I mean, you mentioned earlier, 50 million people were watching that game. And, obviously everyone talks about Shohei, but this guy, he was the MVP of arguably the greatest World Series in history, and as a pitcher. And so what he did relative to modern day pitching, starting pitching, it's legendary status. I mean, and he would have probably been disappointed if I would have taken him out. And I don't even want to think about how many pitches he threw, including warming up, because it'll make me throw up. So I'm just happy that there are no sliding doors, and
John, that night, Jeff Hoffman says, I cost everyone a World Series ring, which, a player's going to do that,
right,
especially in that moment. But when you hear something like that, how do you give a player the understanding that this was something bigger than just him individually?
Yeah, that's what closers are going to say. That's what accountable people are going to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for one, I think anyone in the room would say that, but in our room they were going to say that. But it's bigger than that, Hoff. I mean, it is. Baseball happened. You were the right guy for the right time, and the stars didn't align for that moment. So how are you? the thing that we've really tried to talk about, and me more so with specific guys that were highlighted in some of these spots we're talking about, is this will not define you or this will not define us, but how we got there and how we then move on from it will, because it's an unbelievable life experience and professional experience for these guys. And if it doesn't make you better, then you're just missing out on it. So by no means did Jeff cost us the World Series. By no means did anyone cost us the World Series. The Dodgers earned the World Series. So that's what I want my guys to think about.
Is there any solace to take in being part of something great if you don't win?
You know, it's hard for me to say yeah, but yeah. It really is, you know, because there is a thing, you know, hey, 29 teams are going to feel like they didn't accomplish their goal, right? It's so hard to be that last team. But I think what we did in terms of elevating the standards and expectations here and forming an identity and doing things that are sustainable and doing it with a lot of cohesiveness, I think is real. And I think that not only did we realize that, the baseball world realized that. And Dave, thank you for the compliments of the toughness. That's what we want to be viewed as. You know, and I think that for the first time since probably 2015 and 16, the world can say that about us. So I think that is what you look back on and say, okay, yeah, damn, I feel good about that.
And I think that it's like, I try to get our players to, you know, play for things bigger than themselves, right? And we all do. And these guys, you know, had a whole country behind them. And I was just taking an Uber today, and he was like, what you guys did, what the Blue Jays did for our country needed that.
That's
and it's
cool.
like, that is like, are you kidding me? It's like, we play a game, we coach a game. And then so to kind of look at it like that, that's how you got to look at it. I've lost 2 World Series. And so it's not easy. You know, I wanted to kind of crawl into a hole, and it sucks. But then you have a little bit of like, I got to be a part of it. We didn't fail. We didn't win. We weren't the last team standing. But it's like there's a lot of success, certainly with what they did, and you know, the relevance, where they, you know, when John took this job, and Mark Shapiro is a good friend of mine, and Ross, I played with Ross Atkins, you know, the minors, and like what these guys have done with character people, it's like it's pretty cool to see from the other side. But I hope we can do it again.
That'd be fun.
Wouldn't be too bad
Yeah.
if we got a repeat of the 2025 World Series. Did you guys text anymore, by the way? Aside from after Game 3, when you said, like, were you guys communicating during it, or was that just?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It was just one moment.
I think, yeah.
I think that was it. I got to give you my number. I just changed my number too, so I got to give my new.
I did too.
Oh, okay.
Serious problem.
I know. So I changed my number, so I'll give you my new number.
Okay, perfect.
Dave, I understand that every ring is like a child and you love them all the
Yeah.
same. Was this one more special, though, just because of how great the baseball was, how great the series was, how evenly matched the teams were, how much it brought out of you?
I think if I had to, you know, really pick one, I'd probably so. And I say that because in 2020, it was just a crazy time in our world. It was our first one. And I don't believe that there's an asterisk. Some people do. The one in 24 was like relief, you know, beating the Yankees. We kind of were in the driver's seat a lot of that series. And this one felt like I really got to enjoy it. And I think that it's all a blur, but I do think that this is my most favorite, yeah.
This was your first.
Yeah.
So it is.
First of many.
Hopefully. Thank you. Hopefully. But hopefully you get back there. I remember looking at Donnie Baseball, who's been doing his whole life, and it's his first one too. And it's just like, how cool is this? I get to do this with you. You know, that's the only reason I sent him out for the lineup cards the first game.
I was going to say that.
You know what I mean? Just because he's my favorite player growing up, you know, like the fan in me is like, hey, I'm managing this team. I want to go to the plate, but I just got too much respect for Donnie to not do that.
I noticed that. That was very cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was
class.
Donnie's my guy.
I think there's mutual respect, not just between the teams, but between you guys too. You know, Dave, you had the ultimate joy. John, that's heartbreak. That's as rough as it can get. And yet you guys love the game to the point where you're talking about it now, and I'm very appreciative of